Hello fellow homesteaders, I'm Tara from New Life on the Homestead. Today we are making a flannel board, or a felt board if you prefer to call it. And I'm going to apologize to you right off the bat. I started making this from scratch from the very beginning and chatting along with you guys the whole way, not realizing my video app stopped working. So you're seeing one in progress here, but what I'm going to do to make sure everybody understands how we got this far is to simulate it with a piece of cardboard. Now I used a piece of scrap particle board that we had laying around the homestead. I don't want mine to be able to be so portable it folds up or lightweight to travel in a car or anything. I want mine to be used in my daughter's homeschool. So I want something a little bit more substantial. You can set this on an easel, and what I'm going to do with this one is I'm going to use the front and the back, which you do not need to do. A lot of people just use the front, stretch their felt to the back, staple it, don't have to worry about making it fit like the tightest pillowcase on earth. But I want two children to be able to sit at a table and use it at the same time, so they can be doing the same learning activity, racing each other on their math problems, whatever it might be. So my husband's going to make a little wood tray for this to sit in, and some supports for the side it can slide down in, similar to a Connect 4 game. So that's why I wanted something that was this heavy and sturdy. You can see it has some weight to it. The felt itself is nice and thick. It's definitely about 4 fingernails thickness. It's the type of felt you could use to cover a pool table. I bought it for another project, and I got extra with doing this in mind. As I noted in the article, I think this was probably $3 to $5 worth of really thick, high quality felt, and it should last well beyond the time the kids would outgrow or lose interest in using it. So if you want to do your felt board, just felt, so you can roll it up and put away, space is an issue, you want to be more portable, or you want to put magnets on the back so you can hang it on the fridge, especially if you're making little ones. You can take your felt, and this is 2 thick pieces, and you can sew it together all the way around with a decorative edge, with an edge that blends in whatever you want. But I would suggest, even with this thicker gauge of quality felt, if you're going to only use felt and not back it, that you would make it, you might have to hand sew it this thick depending on your machine. I could do this and not even need to switch to my denim needle, honestly. I just gotta be careful when you're fitting it in, have your needle raised. But I would make it quadrupled over thickness. That's gonna put some stiffness to it. And if you want to put magnets in the back, they make peel and stick ones that'll fit fine with this. But I would suggest using E6000 glue or hot glue to give the magnets some more stability. You can also, if you don't have a piece of board lying around, but you want some weight to it, or you just don't want as much weight as a board, you can use a piece of cardboard. This was cut out already to use for a clip-it board game, which you can check out in another New Life on a Homestead article. You can use several pieces of poster board. What else have I ever seen people use? Mostly cardboard or poster board you put inside. But if you have something along that line, maybe some plastic canvas, something like that, that would work. Now, what I did when I started on this big poster board is I laid my felt, I doubled it over, so you don't have to worry about the pieces matching, any difference in your cutting, to make sure you have enough. Similar to cutting out a sewing pattern. Lay them out, smooth them out, because felt will crinkle, and you lay whatever you're using for your middle weight piece inside. Now, this actually fits perfect. I really just grabbed 2 pieces of scrap. This is a little bit wider than what you need, but think of it like a seam allowance. You want to leave a little bit on the edge. My board was fairly thick. Cardboard, poster board, plastic canvas will not be. You could use 2 pieces of cardboard to give it more stiffness, and use up some scrap flaps from a piece of cardboard or cardboard box, and have less money in it, not to over the weight of a board. So if you're using multiple layers of cardboard, I would duct tape them together so there's no shifting. And you will need a thicker edge, but you want to make sure that you can cover over the edge like so, and it's not exposed, so it's more attractive. And if you have staples showing like we will, you can just cut a piece of felt and hot glue it through there. You can use a piece of burlap. Easiest thing to do is to get a piece of ribbon and the width of however thick your board is, and then you can just hot glue it all the way around. It gives it a nice finished edge, no worry about fingers getting stuck on the staples. So once you have it cut and you've left a little bit of an overhang there, you won't need this much for a thin piece of cardboard. You're going to open it back up, and you're going to slide your stiffening material inside. And then, just like I did on the real felt board that I'm making here, which this could be a great portable felt board, gives me a new idea and I might be making one of those. You want to start on one edge and you're going to fold it over and you're going to staple right on the edge. You can staple on the back if you want. Depends if you're using the back or not. You'd have a little bit of rough edge with your staples there, but they'll cover up when you fold over your seam allowance. So just keep in mind wherever you decide to staple, whether it's on the edge or on the back, you want to cover the staples if you're using the back, or make sure they're covered or otherwise pounded in so that little fingers don't get them. If you're using cardboard, you can just use some hot glue on it, but I would suggest maybe hand sewing it. So you're going to start on one end, and then you're going to do the fold over on a side. You make sure as you're doing this, you're pulling extremely tight. Felt, flannel, just like jersey, it's going to give. Think of your favorite t-shirt, how stretched out it gets. So you're going to want to start. You want to pull it as tight as you can. Put it in a staple. I used a staple hammer when I was doing this until it ran out of staples. Then I switched to the staple gun. But you're going to want to start on one side and pull it as tight as you can. So you can even see the ridges of whatever it is that you are using as a middle thickening piece. And you're going to keep pulling the entire way, the whole way down. And I did this board about 2 fingers width wide and then put a staple on every one. Using something thinner and smaller, you're just going to go fingers width. And you're going to keep it tight like that all the way to the edge. When you get to the edge, you're going to fold it over kind of like you were doing a Christmas present and put the staple right here at the heart of the fold over first to hold it in place, and another staple after you fold it. Now, and this is important, you're not going to just work your way around and do the top. You have a bottom in place, and now you have a side in place. What you're going to do to make sure everything is nice and tight, and you have pulled this as much as you can pull it so you won't have any gaps or wrinkling in your front of your felt board, you're going to do the other side. You're going to do the same way. You're going to fold in your corner and put your first staple right there at the corner and another one on the back or close to it. You're going to work your way down, a staple every finger's width or 2 fingers width, and you're going to keep pulling. And if the other video had not kicked off, you would have seen that I started out on this edge with my 2 fingers width of extra, and it ended up stretching out to be almost my hand wide. That is how much give. As tight as I pulled it, it looked picture perfect tight. But when you start pulling on it, it stretches. And yes, you got to make sure you don't go out like you're killing snakes and pull it so tight you get a hole in it. But if you're using a decent quality flannel or felt, that's not going to happen. So you work your way around, pulling tighter each way, and I would be shocked if you didn't end up having more as you went than what you thought you would from pulling it tighter. And only once you have this side done, or the end done, this side and this side, then you go back to your top. And you're going to do the same pulling that you did on the side, because you're going to have more give there that's going to pull up and tighten up as you go. So I'm going to show you on this one, and I still have some overhang here. This was my extra overhang. I'm going to go ahead and we'll staple all the way down, and I'm going to pull. You're not going to see the give on this one. That's why I wanted to use simulated piece of cardboard, because this is already stapled in place all the way around, and this was my extra from the back. Now I'm going to be using the back. If I wasn't, you could just pull it up and staple across through here and then cut off the extra. But I would like to have this so that I could use the back, or even keep it nice and attractive so I could make some little pouches and sew or Velcro onto the back to hold my felt pieces. So that's just how I want to do it. If you're not worried about the back, you can just stretch it over the front as tight as you can, using the same one end, one side, the next side, and then the final end. So I'm going to go ahead and get my staple gun out here. I'm going to start the corner. The same process for my excess. If it's really long, you want to give it a tuck under. Don't worry about jagged edges. You don't need to use pinking shears. Felt will not ravel. You can just cut off any extra that's still there after you've done your last go around, and it's not going to ravel or leave an unattractive edge. See that one? I got it down too far. Not a big deal, because I'm going to trim this. You want to make sure where your placement is. My piece of particle board is ridged there like tongue and groove, and my staples slid down. But I'm still pulling as I go, giving a tug in between every time, and I'm getting just a smidge more felt still. So you want to keep going and pulling, making sure you get really tight, because this looks perfectly tight, and so did the front that you just saw. When you pull, there's still extra. Now I measured this board, and it's just about 26 inches long by 17 inches high. This was just by circumstance about the size of a lot of the boards that I saw when browsing them on school supply sites or Amazon. And something that was going to be this durable you could put up on an easel that was going to be this large would probably run you $29 at a minimum. I'll turn around to show you how that's looking and see how the front is. And you can see as I pull, just had to look really close, but it's visible to the naked eye that as I pull, you get more in here. I only have $3 to $5 of material in this, however much these staples cost that I kiked out of my husband's garage. And I have plenty of hot glue sticks I bought at the Dollar Tree. In my experience, they work just as well as the ones that I see at Hobby Lobby or Joann's or anywhere else. So those are awesome stores. That's where I go for fabric. I don't see him paying any more than what I have to for supplies. Yeah, I got a lot of give out of this part here. So go ahead and pull it under. From the time I started this to going around the second time, it's probably doing it and being very careful if I wasn't talking my way through it. Probably 20 minutes maybe to make this. And I am making it so the back is usable too. So I'm taking a lot more care in how both sides look. See what I did here? Let me look and make sure you can see. I tucked it. It's sticking out. I folded it in and then I pulled it and I'm going to fold it tighter. But I took a lot more care in how the back looked, and it was more time to do the tucking because I wanted to use both sides. I had a couple staples that did not pound in all the way, and yes, it can fray your felt when you get it out, but you'd have to work really hard to destroy felt. It's very durable. Get this back down here so you can see better. And I still have little bits of ridge sticking up there, but that's nothing that I can't just go through with either like sewing scissors. There you go. I tucked there and did the corners. The corners where you can lose your tightness the easiest. And I'm going to go ahead and put these just on the inside of the back of the board. And I will use a larger ribbon to cover around it. Because my particle board was ridged on two ends, I don't know that I was going to be able to get the tightness to get down those little grooves. So I wasn't dealing with a flat surface there. Like I said, most people just go ahead and pull it around like this, like you're stretching canvas around a wood frame to paint. But I want to be able to use the back side also. And I can still use the back side. But I had this hatchet here because the ball peen hammer wasn't handy. When I got a staple that didn't go in all the way, instead of pulling it out, I just gave it a little pound. And I checked all of them to make sure none were sticking out, any at all that might catch a little finger. Yes, I'm going to have a decorative edge sewed onto it, but one of my grandchildren is too. If there's any possible way to pull something off and get to where you don't belong and can get hurt, Vinnie Pretty would pull it off. I have now worked my way around. I will have edging to clear off, to trim off. Sometimes I'll use a scalpel. It works really great on the felt. It goes through it quickly. Like I said, it doesn't fray. You don't need to worry about having an exposed, unfinished edge. What you need to look for is to make sure you don't have any staples sticking up. Thankfully, this is the back, and there are some staples that are sticking up there where I left over the first time. So it is a little more difficult if you want to use both sides of your board as opposed to one, but it's not anything that's insurmountable. I'm not an expert with working with staple guns. They generally do not like me to break. But here's the front, and I will trim off the extra here in just a bit. And it's nice, tight. It's not going to have any wrinkles in it or sagginess, even with heavy play. And here are some of the things that I've made to put on the flannel board. Some folks get really fancy with theirs, and I use just a green background. If you're going to use scrap from Grandpa's flannel shirt, I would make it a solid collar. It would just be too distracting to do educational activities on otherwise. And but I just like to use a plain green or blue or even black. Some folks get fancy and they will sew green together and blue together so they have grass and a sky. Maybe even embroider or paint. You can paint or use markers on felt, something you can think about when you're making your pieces. So they can have a scene set up for storytelling. I prefer just to make this element so they can go on and off and just keep it blank. That way it has a big open space if we're doing math problems or learning spelling lessons on here. But if you want to make, so if you want to cut out clouds and glue them on, that would look awesome if all you're going to do with this is story work. But I take white felt and pull apart a cotton ball, and then I hot glue it to the white felt. So you have a nice 3D puffy cloud. I've done the same thing with white felt and cotton balls to make little snowballs, snowbanks, snowy hills, different scenes that you might see in a storybook that you're doing an activity with, or when you're learning about the seasons. Some of these I've cut by hand. Some I use my embroidery machine or my Cricut on. And this one was embroidered, but drawing something and I can't draw. It would be very easy to draw a plant stem and cut it out. These I did not do on my Cricut, and I could have, but they were 12 or 2 dozen for $1 at the Dollar Tree. We were doing a lot of leaf identification. And here's some bees. There's a little bit of everything here in my pouch that I grabbed. I have a granddaughter who swears she's a princess. So I cut out some simple princess crayons, and I will put numbers or letters on there so she can stack them in order. And maybe even months of the year. If she is into the princess stuff, then I can take anything educational and put it in with that. I have a dinosaur piece of decorative felt. If you have a child that's interested in dinosaurs, use it. Now the more busier the background, the more difficult it is for them to see and focus on the educational part. The felt sheets like this cost more like 99 cents instead of $0.25. But you could do a neat scene with this. You could cut them out and so they could have the dinosaurs, make a dinosaur scene if you're learning about that era. Or you could just cut out circles, squares, shapes that you've drawn on here, and they can sort the shapes in a theme of something they're interested in. So that's always another option. But I can hold this up now, and that's just felt pieces on top of felt pieces. And these ones are fairly heavy, they're thick, and they're staying on here just fine, no backing needed. If you find otherwise you're doing something really thick, or flannel does not hold the felt as well as a felt piece as well as the felt will. And if you're printing off pictures and backing it with felt, it's going to stick better than if you back them with flannel scraps. I would go 2 layers thick with the flannel scraps. No reason not to use your scraps by any means. You're just going to have to go 2 layers thick, and maybe put a piece of Velcro on the back of it. I wouldn't use the hard scratchy part of the Velcro. Just use the soft part of the hook and latch kit that you get, and also at Dollar Tree, because the soft part will give enough extra oomph for them to stay on here. And even though you can get self-adhesive Velcro, I would still put some hot glue or E6000 glue on there to make sure it stays in place. If you use a scratchy part and the kids keep pulling it off, it'll make a bunch of ravels on your board. As you can see, my table was fairly clean, I thought, and I'm still picking up dust from everywhere and doodads off my table. Oh, dog hair. Just like a felt you would see at a pool table, you'll need to run a lint brush over it. You can wrap some masking tape around your hand and dab it like that.